Hi, guys. Today I have Kelly Hollingsworth here with me, who's going to give us some coaching on finances and money mindset. So, Kelly, tell us exactly what you do and how you came to do this.
Hi, Stacey. Sort of funny. I was raised by a single mom after a very
Oh,
high conflict divorce. She delivered newspapers to support three daughters, me and my two sisters, and we were very, very poor. I'm sure you can imagine what it looks like for people living on the proceeds of a newspaper route. So I got
wow.
very, very interested in women's empowered decisions around divorce because my mother did not make them. And I saw my grandmother do the same thing. They gave away basically all of their security for their entire lives. I watched that happen, and I was very, very interested in how women can navigate high conflict divorce even as a child. And I don't think it's an accident that I wound up studying accounting and law because it was all about the money and the legal issues. And I didn't wind up working in divorce. I started my first business at age 13, cleaning houses for $5 an hour. And I wound up working in the hedge fund industry, and I became one of the few women in the world to manage her own hedge fund. And that was going really great. I was managing my fund. I was advising other hedge fund managers on how to be more successful in business. And then I suffered a hiking injury, hiking on the Pacific Crest Trail with my husband. And I was basically immobile. I'm not going to say paralyzed, but it hurt to walk, sit, or stand.
Mhm.
So I wound up laying on a floor for about 4 years. And that gives one a lot of time to think about the direction of their life. And I thought, I'm hungry for female companionship. I've spent my career helping rich white guys get richer and whiter. And that was fine. But I thought if I ever get up off this floor, I'm going to do something that makes a difference in an area that I really, really care about. And that was women making money, women being financially successful, and knowing the freedom and fearlessness that comes from that. So I started a podcast for women called How to Make More Money, and it's doing pretty well. People seem to be liking it, and women are making more money as a result. So it's been just the thrill of my life to do this. I'm loving it.
That is epic. So, do you have a law degree, Kelly?
I do. Mhm.
Wow. Okay. So many facets to you. And why do you think that so many women that go through divorce have no financial background?
Well, what do you mean when you say financial background? I'm curious about that.
Well, quite often a client will come to me and they really have no idea of what the finances were in the household at all.
Mm.
So they and another huge stumbling block that I find in clients is they'll come to me when they're still married and they want to separate, but they have no access to funds.
Ah, interesting.
So there's this huge financial power imbalance in a marriage.
Hmm. Um, I think there are a lot of reasons that things like that happen. One is that it's a big fight to try to get your hands on some financial power during the marriage. That certainly happened in my parents' marriage. Another reason is I think a lot of women just don't know how fun it is to have their hands in the game of money, and they're busy with other things that seem fun. And so then they just hand it off and they're like,
Mhm.
I'm not interested in that. So I think it can be they are interested in it and they're not up to the fight, or they don't know how much fun it is. Or I don't know. What else do you think? What do you think
I agree. I
happens?
think it's sort of the path of least resistance. I find the people who are in a high conflict divorce, usually it's just one of the parties that is a high conflict personality. The one coming to me is not that party. It's the lesser conflict and it's the path of least resistance to take. So they might be interested if they were included, but they've been excluded and they don't want to climb that mountain and risk disappointing or angering their spouse in doing so. So I think you
Hmm.
have it exactly right. And I do think, and I would say that I am very much a part of your second category. Women have no idea how much fun it is to be an entrepreneur and make money. And I think a lot of the people who are going to watch this have sort of little inklings of possibility of what else might be possible for them. Most of them are working in a standard wage job, most of my people who follow me, but they have amazing, I like to think of them as superpowers. Each one of my clients has a superpower that they can actually monetize, but they've never really considered how fun that adventure might be.
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I'm working on a series of episodes in my podcast that's touching on this. There is a lot of language that is fear-based and risk-infused around business. Put yourself out there, feel the fear and do it anyway. You're going to have to take some risks. You're going to have to break some eggs if you want to bake a cake. And women are smart. I love that joke. What are every redneck's last words? Hey, Bubba, watch this. This is not the language women use. They don't do stupid things. They don't jump off buildings. They don't break bones. They just don't do dumb things. And so when we speak about business as being really, really risky, women conclude that's not for me. But it's all just a lie. Being good at business is the most certain way to create serious cash that ever existed. And women are really good at serving people. They're really good at looking at a problem and thinking, I can fix that. And because they're living in this mythology of business is really, really risky, they conclude that it's not for them. And that was never my approach. I saw it as the road that cuts through hell and takes you straight to safety. And so I just dove in, and that's where I went, and it was amazing. And that's something I really want every woman to know. It is the opposite of risk to be in business and making money. It takes you to skill, it takes you to cash, it takes you to a platform from which you can sell goods and services. It makes you more connected, it makes you stronger. There's nothing risky about that. So I think that's another reason women shy away from money in business. And it's a mythology that many of us are living in, that I really think getting out of that and getting into the game of making money is huge.
Right. So shifting from business is risky to business is very sensible. And women do tend to be risk averse and more sensible. I love that shift. That's such a great pearl. Do you have any financial tips that you would give somebody before they're about to leave their marriage?
Yes. Yes. So many, I don't even know where to begin. So I'll just take them one by one as they come to mind. How does that sound?
Perfect.
Okay. The first one is, I hear this one a lot. As a lawyer, I'm always listening for this. He doesn't want blank related to the property settlement or anything about how this is going to go. He doesn't want this. He says this. And what I really like for women to know, how familiar is your audience with the model? Are they very familiar with it?
They are pretty familiar with it. They understand the difference between circumstances and thoughts, or facts and thoughts.
Okay, great.
So they know what somebody says, specifically their ex, is just a neutral fact. It's a circumstance.
Okay. What I like to do is put what somebody in a high conflict divorce is saying on their action line. He is taking the action of saying, if you try to go after my pension, I am going to keep the kids. That's his action, but his thought is not, I want these kids, and nor is it, I get to keep the pension. This is community property. I'm speaking from firsthand experience. This is what happened in my parents' high conflict divorce. And they had been married in a community property state the entire time that my dad developed a pension with Boise Cascade back when corporations were giving away big pensions. And he told her during the divorce, if you try to get part of my pension, I will keep the kids. And my mom didn't have the conceptual vocabulary to know where to put that. She just heard a threat. So she kept the kids, she gave it all away, and she started delivering newspapers to support us. And so, to tie this back to the original point that I was trying to make before I got sucked into my story, the when the high conflict person says something, that is on their action line. And women tend to believe that people mean what they say, because women tend to mean what they say. But that isn't how it was going. If I could go back in time and advise my mother, knowing what I know now, she would have had a much different life and a much different experience in her own divorce.
So specifically then, if his action is to threaten,
Mm-hmm.
he probably has a feeling of worry or insecurity
He has a feeling
driving
of
it.
determination. I am going to win. His thought is, this is a strategy. This is a
Okay.
strategy. I am going to win. He feels determined. He takes the action of making a threat. And the result is then he's more likely to win, but he's just playing a game. He's just blowing smoke. An example is my husband and I are having a conflict over a fence with our neighbor, because this neighbor has 6 sons and about, from what we can tell, 45 or 50 grandchildren. And they scream all day long, and it's a waterfront home, so the kids are there swimming and they're screaming literally all day long. And we built a fence and we're expanding the fence this summer, and they're upset about it. And we legally have the right to build the fence, and they really should expect that we're going to build this fence. They're like, well, this is a surprise. And we're thinking, really? This isn't a surprise. So we said, we're building the rest of the fence. And he said, well, this is war. And I recognize that as he's threatening me. That's on his action line. On his thought and feeling line, does he have any belief that this is really war? No, there's no war here. He can't do anything. Legally, we have the right to build the fence. He can try to get an injunction. He could do something illegal. We have security cameras on our property. He's saying the words that this is war, but nothing is going to happen. So this is how I view threats. It's on their action line. Nothing is going to happen. He thinks he's going to win. He's not going to win. And I don't get upset about it. Do you see what I'm
Right.
saying?
Absolutely. And that is available to everybody watching this, like, because this is a common thing. These threats that come I always say they are designed to scare you, and they seem
Mm-hmm.
to be working when my clients call me, and it seems to be working, but does it really have to scare you? How can we think about it? And yeah, it's just an attempt to intimidate.
Yes. Yes. And if you just think he is speaking words, and often when a client will say that to me, I'll say, well, yeah, that's what he's saying. What do you think the judge will say? And, that kind
Exactly.
of shifts you back into, I don't want to say shifts you back into your power. I hate that kind of language. It's so coachy, but women feel very disempowered in a high conflict divorce, and it
Mhm.
gets you back in the driver's seat.
Absolutely.
Um,
The feeling that I always encourage my clients to feel is not necessarily empowered, although if they do, amazing. I just
mhm.
want some calm confidence, like always take action from that place of calm confidence. So, we have to look at the things that are the bombs that are being hurled our way and detonate them. We need to look at them and say, is this really something to be afraid of?
Mhm.
Maybe not.
Exactly.
That brings you
Yes.
down into that calm confidence.
Yes.
So
Love it.
anything else that you would say to people who are about to leave a marriage in terms of getting their ducks in a row in terms of finances?
Yes. I will say that it is very easy to advocate against yourself when you really should be advocating for yourself and protecting yourself. Here's an example. My mother's second serious relationship, she had an agreement with her partner. They never married, but he was a long-term partner and they lived together, and he was very, very wealthy. And he told her, if we ever separate, I will give you $100,000 as a settlement, because she had quit her job to travel with him. And $100,000 was a pittance, but that was the agreed upon amount. And when she wanted to separate, I said, let's go to the bank and let's get that money. And she was advocating against herself. She was saying, no, if he wants me to have it, he'll give it to me. And my grandmother had done the same thing, losing a 5-acre property with 2 homes on it in this kind of nonsense process. So I said to my mom, I practically had to grab her by the ear and drag her out to the car. We're getting in the car, we're going to the bank, we're getting that money. And all the way to the bank, she was saying, if he wants me to have it, he'll give it to me. Because she didn't just want the money, she wanted him to feel good about giving her the money. And why do we do this? Because we're protecting ourselves from a fear of danger. We seek permission to avoid any kind of threat. But I said, listen, this is the difference between you living in an apartment and working at Walmart for the rest of your life, or a paid for house. Where we live at the time, you could get a 2-bedroom house for about that amount of money. So I took her to the bank. We got the money in a cashier's check. We took it to a different bank and deposited it. So he couldn't tell his bank to claw it back from the account that she had it in. And we got the money and we put it there. Now, she had gone to lawyer after lawyer after lawyer who had said, well, I don't know, we can take it to court, we can blah, blah, blah. But when you're seeking legal permission and a legal solution to something is yours, don't wait. Just go get it. Right? And there's nothing to fight about. She was like, he's going to sue me. He's going to come. No, he's not. No, he's not.
And my comment is always, so what?
Right.
My favorite 2 words. Okay, so what? Like, I just got off a call with, he's gonna, take me to court for contempt. So what? Like, you're supposed to drag your 16-year-old over to his dad's house and let him take you for contempt. Good luck to the judge.
Yeah, I completely agree. When you're advocating for yourself financially, very little happens. And if it does, as you just said, so what?
So what? Yeah, or just remember, if it does happen, you'll figure it out. Like, we have 100% track record of figuring shit out.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. So often I see cases where I get a phone call from someone who hasn't yet left their spouse, and they may have access to a joint account, and that's it. Or they may have a bit of an RRSP themselves, but they have access to a joint account. And they need to line up some funds so that they can actually physically separate, and so that they can retain counsel. And I think they can take that money out of the joint account as long as they have access to it. Half of it is really legally theirs, and then they can do an accounting after, when they settle their net family property.
Yes, exactly. Don't leave with no money waiting for somebody to give you some money. They're not going to. Take your money.
Exactly. So what would you want to tell my viewers, mainly women, but there are a few guys too that I coached, to consider in terms of their financial future?
Make money.
And you're going to hear a whole bunch of obstacles, like, my kids are young, I can't, I can't afford to quit my job, blah, 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 blah.
Kids are a big issue with money. And I think the reason that all of my mother's daughters were financially successful is because she never viewed herself as the caretaker to her children. And so this is something that I teach my clients. I work with women in business who want to make a lot of money just because it's fun to do. They want to do it. And a big stumbling block for them is, I want to be a good mom. And so I'm always, I never argue with the clients happily ever after. You want to be a good mom? Great. What would a good mom do? Would a good mom do laundry for a 13-year-old child? Or would a good mom coach her child to do his or her own laundry? So the good mom is always the coach, never the caretaker. And that's how it was with us.
Another pearl you just dropped on us. The good mom is always the coach and never the caretaker.
Mm-hmm. Always.
Amazing.
I have a program for business women who want to just make a killing in business. And one of the skills I teach them is how to be a coach in your own home rather than the caretaker. Because once you start coaching those kids, you realize there's a whole lot of time for me to make a whole lot of money. And that's actually the best skill you can model to your children. Especially if you have girls, if you want them to be successful, showing them a model of motherhood where they are financially at risk because they are mothers is the wrong thing to do. I saw that model with my mom. I'm taking care of my girls. I'm being a good mom. I can't make a lot of money because I have kids. I can just run this paper route. She was a strong woman in that she wasn't a caretaker for us, but she was living the I'm a mom, so I'm under earning model. And I looked at that and I said, not for me. I didn't have children. I don't have grandchildren. And now I miss that. I realize what I missed because I didn't have a model of a woman making money and being a good mom at the same time. And so if what you're modeling as a mother to your kids, particularly your daughters, is to be a good mom, you're on the edge of a financial cliff, you're not really giving your girls something to hang on to when they become a mom. And I think we need to change that, starting with our generation, or it just persists.
I love that.
I borrow grandkids from my friends.
Perfect. Well, no, I think that's great. And when would you say is a good time for if somebody's going through a divorce or a high conflict divorce? Is there a time? Do they have to get over the hump before they could work with someone like you or start to follow you? Or do you think it's something that can be done in tandem?
It should be done immediately. This is what I tell women all the time. If you can play bridge with your friends during a high conflict divorce, you can make money. It's just a game. You can have all of this stuff going on and make money. And that's how my life has been. It doesn't matter what's going on in my life. It's like racquetball. I'm just making money. And I think there's a narrative that first you work on your why, then you work on your self-esteem, then you work on your confidence, then you build yourself up, and then you do a skills assessment, and then you work on the skills. No, work on your self-esteem all you want, but while you are, make money.
That's going to help you work on your self-esteem.
Yes, it
right?
actually creates confidence and self-esteem and power and skill and all those things.
Absolutely.
Do it now.
How can people find you, Kelly? How can they listen to you and reach out to you?
I love it. So my podcast is called How to Make More Money. It couldn't be more obvious. Just type that into Spotify, Apple, iTunes, Stitcher. You'll find the podcast, and please listen because it will really help you make money. And there's nothing more fun.
I agree. I've listened. I can vouch for it. And there's something very calming about your voice, Kelly.
Thank you. Thank you. I do that deliberately. I just want people to know. It's like you were saying about divorce. What did you say? Calm, collected, calm confidence. That's the energy that makes money as well. Calm, purposeful energy is what I'm always teaching people. Excitement repels money. Calm, purposeful energy attracts money. So thank you so much for letting me talk about the show. Thank you for letting me speak to your listeners.
I think you dropped a few amazing pearls for them. Thanks for coming on, Kelly.
Thank you.
Take care.